I will be handing the floor over now to the Director General of NACCIMA, Ambassador Halal, for his opening remarks as we start this webinar this morning. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Okwe, can you hear me?
DG, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. You need to unmute me.
Okay, so I think you're muted. So, okay. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay, but my video is not on. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let me just continue to speak. Okay, if you can hear me, let me just say welcome to everybody. We're indeed delighted that you've joined us, and I think you've taken the right step. Of course, the EDF, the Export Development Fund, is part and parcel of the initiative within the context of the Economic Sustainability Plan. And we are very, very glad to let you know that NACCIMA is a very important partner with government, especially with the NEPC, especially as far as this issue is concerned. And the whole essence of this seminar, of this webinar, is to sensitize you to how to access the fund under the EDF, because very soon it's going to start rolling. And I think it will be an advantage, especially for those of us who are in the area of export. Mr. Lara, of course, will take us through the various steps which you need to go through in terms of accessing the fund. So this is the first step. It's a very important webinar. Like you said, we will put the recording on our YouTube channel too as well, so that you can know what steps the respective your members can take to be able to access this particular fund. We are there in the Secretariat to also continue to guide you in terms of when it is being rolled out and when, of course, the whole thing, of course, takes place. It is one of the strategic steps by government to work with us as the national chambers in terms of the whole question of improving our non-oil export. We held a meeting yesterday with the minister at the OPSN, with the Minister of Industry, Otumba Adeni, Trade and Investment. And of course, he also encouraged that we should let our members know these things are there, these opportunities are there. Because when we spoke to some of our members, very many of our members said, look, we're not aware of the ESP, Economic Sustainability Plan. Occasionally we hear about job survivor funds and things like that. So this is why we are trying to bridge the gap between the information and the opportunity out there and what chambers can take advantage of. This is just my few remarks. Please take it very seriously. Sensitize your members, especially those of them who are in the area of export too as well, that these funds will be available so that they can take advantage of it. I sincerely hope you heard me. Thank you very much for this opportunity for joining us. And I wish us, all of us, successful deliberation. Thank you very much. Okay, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir, for those opening remarks, setting the tone for today's webinar, which is going to be very short and business-like. Essentially, we'll be presenting the guidelines for accessing the Export Development Fund, and afterwards, we'll be interactive enough to allow the Chamber of Commerce better position its members and other members of business associations to access these funds. So without further ado, I will be making a PowerPoint presentation, which will simply provide further details with regards to this fund, and hopefully you would note your questions. you would note down your questions for the interaction after the presentation. So my name is Okpeyemi Alano. I work in the research department of NACCIMA, and this presentation will be broken into three major parts. I'll give a background of the fund, the EDF. Then we'll launch into the EDF proper, where we'll discuss the features of the fund, the eligibility criteria, and then the process for application. After going through all this, then we'll discuss the next steps. So the background. First of all, the fund is actually established by law. It's established by the Export Act of 2004, which provides financial assistance to exporting companies. And this financial assistance is to cover part of their expenses with respect to export promotion activities. However, despite the fact that it is provided by law, it is currently being implemented as part of the funds available from the Economic Sustainability Plan. This Economic Sustainability Plan was presented on the 11th of June, 2020, and it was a plan that promised to spend 2.3 trillion naira as part of the measures to ensure that the economy bounces back from the impact of COVID-19 and the economy continues to grow. Out of this 2.3 trillion naira in funding, there is a portion of it that is being set aside to support small businesses. There are quite a number of aspects of the fund that support small businesses. But the one that concerns us today is this one that speaks to guaranteed offtake scheme for MSMEs, the SME Survival Fund, which I'm sure a lot of the participants here would be aware of, some MSME intervention funds, and MSME regulatory support. The objective of this fund is to support the creation of jobs, and it's a total of 350 billion naira that will be spent over a period of 12 months. So that 350 billion naira is divided into the 50 billion naira MSME de-risking facility, the 100 billion naira intervention fund for the health sector, and the 150 billion naira capitalization fund for priority sectors. And then the 50 billion naira export expansion facility, which is the topic of our webinar today. So specifically, the guidelines we are discussing today look to how the private sector will be able to access the 50 billion naira export expansion facility. So, like I said before, the fund provides financial assistance to private sector exporting companies to cover their expenses with respect to export promotion activities. But there are a few areas which we will not go into detail that qualify as the activities under which you can access this fund. So the first of them is participation in training courses. So if as an exporter or an export enabler or a business development provider, you would want to carry out some training courses, seminars, workshops. This is one of the areas that you can apply for funding. The second area is for advertising and publicity campaigns. So if in the area of exports, you want to carry out some promotional campaigns in overseas markets or brand promotion, or as a joint export market group and you want to promote for your cooperative or your market group, you can now also apply for funding under the EDF. The third one is if as an exporter, you need some assistance in standardization. So as an exporter, you need some assistance in helping to ensure that your products are certified under ISO, maybe ISO 9001 or 14001 or fair trade. These are all certifications that if you get, they will boost your potential to be able to sell abroad, your potential to export. But some of these activities might be quite expensive. So the Export Development Fund provides that if you need assistance in these areas, you can apply for financial assistance to enable you get your quality standardization certificates in any of these areas. So that's the third one. The fourth one, if it's a case of quarantine issues and standards and regulations with regards to sanitary and phytosanitary, these may not be planned to certification, but may just be issues that have to do with post-harvest handling and sanitary issues. You can also apply for financial assistance under the EDF for this. The next one has to do with maybe the development of e-commerce platforms or collecting trade information so that in foreign markets, if you have a project as maybe as an export enabler or as a business development provider, or even as an exporter that has to do with collecting trade information, then you can apply under the EDF. An exporting company that wants to undertake research studies, that wants, this could also apply to a business development provider or an export enabler. If you want to undertake market research, maybe now that the AFCTA is in operations, perhaps you want to carry out market research in Cameroon to see which areas in Cameroon that Nigerian products can actually make headway in. So if as a company, you require financial assistance to conduct that market research, then you can also apply under the EDF. So this is also applicable to those who want to engage experts for product adaptation and designing. So, I mean, as exporters, there might be some areas that you just have a limit in your knowledge. If these areas have to do with packaging, composition and design, then if you need to engage experts to help you in this area, these are also areas that you can provide, you can apply for financial assistance under the EDF. Mentorship. So this is similar to the last one where we talked about experts. So there might be times you need to engage experts. There might be time you actually need to be provided with a mentor, maybe a company that is quite large and can mentor small scale exporters. If this is where you need assistance, you can also apply under the EDF. Also, if where assistance is required is to be able to participate in international trade fairs. So for example, the Intra-Africa Trade Fair 2021 is coming up in Rwanda, Kigali. So if some exporters feel like where they need financial assistance is some support in being able to go to Kigali to attend that trade fair and exhibit their made in Nigeria products, then the fund, you can apply under this fund. This is also an area that qualifies under the fund. In the area of informal traders, or at least a collection of exporters who want to come together as an export group, or they want to come together as a mutual guarantee association, or they want to come together as a cooperative society. After coming together as these groups, and also after going through some training that may be conducted by the NEPC can actually provide seed capital, seed funds into these groups to help this group start production of products. So if as an exporter, you already are part of such a group, such an export group, or a guarantee association or a cooperative society, then that society or group can apply for seed capital. If not, then these are the kinds of opportunities we should start thinking of, because the application for the not yet out. This is the prepare time with the short, so forming your group. So this is the time to consider getting yourself ready for when the application for the fund is open. So mostly, the fund would also be used to establish and develop export-oriented industries. So if as an exporter, you believe that you are large enough, or at least within the required size that you can get support as an export-oriented industry, you can actually also apply to the fund for that. So these, I think, 9 or 10 areas the fund will be applied towards. But how would you be eligible? What is the eligibility criteria? Any company that wants to benefit from the scheme must meet these 4 eligibility criteria. First of all, you must be a registered company with the CAC. But I mean, with the slight exception of those areas where we talk about cooperative societies or mutual guarantee associations, those would have another form of registration. But as an exporter, the company must be registered with the CAC. You must also be registered as an exporter under the NEPC. And then you must make sure that what you are applying for is product or service that is of Nigerian origin. It's a product or service that you're producing that is of Nigerian origin. And then finally, you would also need your tax clearance certificate. So one of the objectives of holding this webinar today, even without the application being open yet, is to let private sector operators be aware of this criteria so that you start today. If there's any of these things you don't have, start today to go and get them. Because like the Director General of NACCIMA mentioned, the government, particularly the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, is working with the organized private sector in the disbursement of these funds. So if we are able to show that our members have met all the criteria, then we are as good as being able to almost guarantee that those funds will be disbursed to the private sector. So if you're having any issues getting any of this, you can try and reach out to any association you belong to, or a Chamber of Commerce or NACCIMA. But these are the areas you must show to show that you are eligible to apply for this fund. So what is the application process if you are eligible? First, a form will be made available. We are being told that this will be made online, similar to the survival fund, which most of us will be aware of from late last year, early this year. So whenever the NEPC publishes, they would announce on the pages of the newspapers and in various media that the application is now open. So whatever format that they use, if it's physical, if it's online, the application form will be available. You have to fill the application with all the required documentation and submit it. So if it's physical, you submit to the Fund Secretariat, which is domiciled with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, NEPC. According to the dictates of the application notice. So in the notice that the application is open, the NEPC would let us know how the form is to be submitted. Very importantly, that export activity that you are looking for financial assistance for, out of one of those 9 that I have already listed. So if you've selected one of them, or 2 of them, or 3 of them, you will need to write out a draft, right? Detailing what the export activity is that you want this financial assistance for. And you would also submit that to the NEPC or the EDF Secretariat. When all these are done, you've submitted your application, you submitted your draft, the Secretariat will communicate to your company the nature of the assistance that has been approved. So you may request for assistance in the form of travels or funding or expert support or certification. And then the Secretariat will get back to you with regards to what form of assistance they are willing to provide. Finally, and most importantly, when you do get that assistance and that funding, a detailed report of the activities undertaken, which will contain also the evidence of how you spent, this financial assistance, will need to be provided so that the NEPC will be able to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of how this fund has promoted non-oil exports in Nigeria. So those are the application steps. We are hoping that at the end of this webinar, all of you who are members or non-members, or at least private sector operators, either as exporters or export enablers or business development providers, will select a particular activity or an area that you want to apply for financial assistance for, and then start preparing your drafts. Don't wait for when the application form comes out, because like I said, the indication we are getting is that the window of application won't be as long as we would like. So you have to make sure you are ready. Ensure you've gotten all your eligibility documents, your CAC certification, your NEPC certificate as an exporter, your tax clearance certificate, your TIN. Make sure you have all those ready. Then look out for the NEPC notice. We are very sure to come out in the pages of the newspaper. It will probably also be on social media. And then if you are having any issues, reach out to your Chamber of Commerce or Business Association for support, because like again, I reiterate, like the DG said, in the meeting with the Federal Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, the ministry is working with the private sector on the disbursement of these funds. So we will have no excuse whatsoever if we are unable to make our members benefit, especially if after letting our members know the guidelines, if they are still not able to meet those guidelines, then it will be a major disappointment to the economy as a whole, because this is a great opportunity for exporters in general. So this is, like I said, it's a very short webinar. It's business-like. What we're looking forward to more is more interaction, questions with regards to how best we can help you, how best we can support you to ensure that as an exporter, you benefit from at least one of these export activities. So thank you. That's the end of my presentation. If you want to make a contribution, you could raise your hand. We would give you the opportunity to speak, or you can type in the chat box, or you can type in the Q&A, so that we get your feedback with regards to areas you feel that will be challenging, areas you feel that you need support, and what other things you think that can be done to ensure that private sector operators benefit from the Export Development Fund. Thank you very much. Okay, so I see Dr. Dan has his hands raised, but his hand, okay, would you still like to speak, Dr. Dan?
Hello. Hello, Mr. Kwame, I want to speak.
So for questions, comments, interactions. Okay, you have the floor.
Can I speak now? I have a question.
And make a contribution.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kwame. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Dan, you can go ahead. After you speak, then Jane will have the floor. You first, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, our DG. Thank you, NACCIMA. We are proud to be associated with
Please
NACCIMA.
Go ahead, Dr.
You guys are good. Yes. My question is, we are into export promotion. We have about 7 cooperative societies. Cooperative society, like you said, are not registered with CAC. They are registered with the State Ministry of Commerce and Industry. I hope this our cooperative who are into export of the yellow pepper can successfully apply and then benefit without a CAC document. Then on the issue of tax clearance, we are working on that for the cooperative. Most of the cooperatives are not tax-paying organizations, but we'll see how we can get with our tax consultant to resolve this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dan. I'll just also take the comments from Jane before I respond to yours with regards to cooperatives. You have the floor, Jane.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, moderator. Okay, my name is Jane. I'm an exporter. And I want to say a very big thank you to whatever that brought out this initiative of this Export Development Funds, because we have quite a number of exporters who have just gone underground because of funding. So my question is, we all know and we are aware that this is the season when most crops are harvested, and this is the time that we can do the exports. So this meeting is a great meeting, but the real thing hasn't really been communicated as per the timing. So asking that it would be very nice if NACCIMA would find out from, is it Nigerian Export Council or from the office of the Vice President, when exactly, so that we can also key into the season, and also knowing that as the months progress, the goods also get, the produce also gets more expensive. So it will be nice, in case they are not also aware, that NACCIMA as a group will also let them know, so that they don't also make that funds. I'm not saying that even if they make their funds available in August, it will be a bad idea, but we will be thankful. But it will be nice that the funds come now. You know, let it come now, so that the exporters can also enjoy the benefit of it by buying those produce at good prices and when it's available. Not when it comes in August and you have a contract to supply a particular commodity. It's not available. You now have funding, but the commodity to export, you're scratching. You're looking for it everywhere. You get 1 ton here, you get 5 tons here, you're supposed to do maybe like 500 tons because the commodity is no longer available. Meanwhile, what you have been requesting for in the last 6-10 years for export is now in your palm, but you don't have the goods again, except you now have to wait for another 1 year. So I want to plead that the commission, that's NACCIMA, goes an extra mile to let the team, is it NEPC, is it the office of the vice president, to let them know that it is now, even though the mail said in few days to come, but we need to know when exactly. It's very interesting, but we need to know. We need to know and let them make it available for us where it makes sense. Even if it comes in December, it will make sense because we've not even had the funds since 6 years. But now that it has come, they should assist us get the funds now that it's season. At least most of the crops, I know some crops come later in the year, but mostly most of the crops that are exported are available now. They should make it, the funds available also now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane, for those very apt comments. So I also have a question from Folorunsho Oluwafemi on the Q&A portion. Says, how can NACCIMA help we, the private sector, get the necessary documents for the grants? So what I'll do is I'll respond to these first 3 contributions from Dr. Dan, from Jane, and from Folorunsho Oluwafemi. And then I'll hand the floor over to Dr. Olujide, who also has his hands raised. So Dr. Dan mentioned about cooperatives not being registered with the CAC, even though we stated that according to the guidelines, it does say that registration with the CAC is one of the requirements. However, if you cycle back a bit to when I was listing the export activities that will benefit from the fund, one of them is in the setting up of cooperatives and mutual guarantee associations. The fortunate thing, and again I reiterate from what the DG of NACCIMA said, is that NACCIMA and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria are closely working with the ministry and the NEPC on this grant. As a matter of fact, both MAN and NACCIMA are on the board of trustees for the grant. So that being said, there is that aspect that is tailored towards support for cooperatives. The important thing is just for all the documentation to be ready. So whatever documentation that exists for the registration of the cooperative, as well as any other supporting documents, because to the best of my knowledge, even cooperatives I don't think are registered for tax, but I would confirm that. On to the comments from Jane with regards to when exactly the form will be open. I'm very confident that even though we don't have a date, set date yet. It's likely to be in the coming days because there have been a series of meetings with the minister, with the NEPC, with the Board of Trustees to ensure that the form comes out, which is why we are trying to make sure that the publication of the forms doesn't catch our members unawares. Because of what benefits would it be to you to hear that the form is out now, but then most of those processes that you need will take another 7 days before you get them. So which is why we're organizing this webinar to say, start from today to go and get all the requirements. So that if the form is out next week, you're one of the first to completely submit the form, not one of the first to start applying, but you're one of the first to completely submit the form. I also want to stress that some of the challenges you noted is exactly why this fund is available. So say, for example, dry season products. Products are harvested, but if they are not sold on time, they may start getting bad. So what that means is that there's a problem of post-harvest storage. So this could be an area where you prepare a draft sort of like a proposal to say, as an exporter, you need the Export Development Fund in order to establish your own post-harvest storage facility so that you no longer have to be under the pressure of dry season versus wet season. I'm just using this as an example. The question by Folorunso Dayo Olufemi. So when I talked about next steps, I said reach out to your Chamber of Commerce or your business association for support, because every business association and Chamber of Commerce has a service desk to support you in getting these things. So I'm sure if you reach out to us, if you are our member, or to the association you belong to, and say you need some kind of support in helping you to reach out to FIRS to get your TIN number, or helping you to reach out to CAC to get your certification number, there are obviously things we can support. Timothy Adegbite says, NEPC certification is too rigorous. How can we get help as a company? And how do we deal with tax clearance? So from personal experience, I know of being able to apply for the NEPC certificate online. And it was quite seamless up to the point of payment. So I would suggest you go to the NEPC website and try and apply for the NEPC certificate. The only rigorous issue you may face is when you want to go and collect the physical copy, because the soft copy will be sent to you. So the only rigor you might now face is, okay, I have my NEPC certificate. How do I go to their office to go and pick it up? So there's another question by an anonymous attendee, but before I attend to that, I'll give the floor over to Dr. Olujide, who also has his hands raised for a question. You have the floor, sir. Dr. Olujide, would you still like to speak? You could unmute your mic and you have the floor, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And thanks to NACCIMA for organizing this webinar. Dr. Olujide, Executive Secretary, Elisha Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. Some of the questions that I have with me here, you've also answered it in line with the questions asked by my other colleagues. But the other ones that I have here is the following one. The EDF, the fund, is it meant to export product only, or is meant for both production and the exportation of product? I would like to, find out the clarification. Then number two, is there any specific type of product, that this project captures? The fund. Then the maximum amount that a business can, request from this fund, and the payback period. I'm aware, even from your presentation, that the fund is meant for 12 months, and maybe, I don't know when that 12 months will start, but I would like to know when the fund will be paid back, and the maximum amount that, an organization can request from the fund. Then when you talk about registration with Nigerian Export Promotion Council. I'm not sure if the council at the state level will be able to do that for our members. Before now, I learned that it is being done in Lagos, Akure, Abuja, you know, at regional level. So I would like to find out if that would be possible at the state level, you know, to register with Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Then on a final note, I think to encourage our people to key into this initiative, it will be better if NACCIMA and the members, I mean, both state and the city chambers, you know, the platform is used to coordinate the process, you know, for members, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to know that the fund actually, you know, reach out to those people who are into real business, who are also members of organized private sector. So those are my questions and my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for those, I mean, very insightful questions, which also highlight some very significant areas. So first question, does the application of the fund go towards products or services? According to the guidelines, which I know is available online, but even if it isn't, I think what we will do is we will send both the guidelines and the presentation of this webinar to all those who filled our online form and to everyone on our mailing list, so that you would also have the guidelines yourself, the guidelines for accessing the fund. You would have them yourself, and you would be able to go through them. But from the guidelines specifically states that the EDF is applicable to exporters of Nigerian products and services. I'm going to share the screen, share on the screen the guidelines as I have it, so that as I make my comments, I'll be referring to the guidelines. So under the guidelines, where you see eligibility criteria, it actually says that the EDF shall be applicable to products or services of Nigerian origin. So that's the answer to the first question, right? That the fund is applicable to products or services. So your second question, which was, is there any specific type of product? So the wording of the guidelines is in that the EDF is supporting your export activity. So the fund shall be used to provide financial assistance to private sector exporting companies to cover their initial expenses in respect of export promotion activities. So as long as the product is of Nigerian origin or the service of Nigerian origin, what you're going to be able to access the fund for is for the activities that you're doing. So you're not necessarily going to say, I have cotton, give me money. Rather, you're going to say, this is what I want to do to promote the sales of my cotton in Ghana, and this is what I need the money for. So I don't know if that answers the question. Third question, maximum amount payback period, and where does this 12 months come in? To the best of my knowledge, this would require clarification, but to the best of my knowledge, the fund is a grant, so it's not a loan. It's not something that you're going to pay back, but I would, again, so that I am not passing wrong information, I would ensure that this is clarified with our representative on the Board of Trustees. So the fund is a grant, so it doesn't have a payback period. However, where I mentioned 12 months, I mentioned 12 months in my presentation with reference to the economic sustainability plan. And that 12 months means that 350 billion in total, of which this 50 billion of the EDF is part of it, the government wants to spend it, wants to expend it, wants to disburse it over the period of 12 months. So it's not speaking to you as the exporter paying back in 12 months, but it's speaking about the time frame in which the government wants to expend these funds. Registration with the NEPC at the state level. Like I mentioned in response to Mr. Timothy Adegbite, I am aware, and this isn't hearsay, I actually have helped out a company to register online. But this was as at December 2019, so you could try again. The NEPC website, it was quite seamless to apply for the NEPC certificate. And like I said in that response, the only challenge I foresee is even after applying and you get the soft copy of the NEPC certificate, you might need to come down to the NEPC office. And I don't know if this can happen in Elisha or if you still have to come down to Lagos or Akure, but that's the only challenge I foresee, that getting the physical copy is you maybe having to still go to the office to pick it up. But that getting the physical copy doesn't mean you're not registered. You will be registered, you will have your export number, and you will have a soft copy of it. Then you spoke about the role of the chambers with regards to supporting these companies. And as you have the guidelines open on your screen, the areas where the chambers can really also even apply and benefit from this grant is in the areas of being an export enabler. So you see a situation where, I'm trying to scroll down to that area specifically, where it talks about research. Just hold on. Okay, yeah. So the fund can also be used for the cost of collating trade. If part of the activity you are carrying out is that you want to collect trade information in the areas of this, and you want to also maybe conduct market survey, product sourcing, and research. So the chambers of commerce and other business associations are perfectly suited for these kind of activities. And I know for a fact that NACCIMA is currently discussing with the NEPC on how chambers, city chambers, state chambers, regional chambers can also come up with projects that will be of benefit to their members under this fund. The important thing is whatever documentation you can have, right, as well as the draft explaining the export activity. To me, I believe that's the most important thing. I don't want to call it a business plan because it's not a business plan. You're not getting a loan, but it's a document that is describing that export activity that you want to carry out. So city and state chambers can definitely participate in terms of accessing the fund so that you can use the fund to put together your members, maybe as a cooperative, support them in becoming a mutual guarantee association or whatever it is. And the NEPC should be able to fund. You also had a question about the maximum amount you can access. Payback period, I've already answered that. I believe it's a grant. Maximum amount, if you look at the end of the guidelines, when it talks about the application process, it says the Secretariat will communicate to you the nature of assistance that has been approved. So you can do your draft and ask for the entire 50 billion. The Secretariat will now get back to you and say, okay, we've seen your draft, we've seen the activity, but we can only fund you to the tune of 1 million. So I believe those answer the questions. I don't see any other hands up, but in the Q&A area, there's a question from an anonymous attendee who says, why can't the fund be against the funding of letters of credit and confirmed orders? Secondly, will a newly registered company be required to produce a tax clearance? So to your first question, I would say it would be very helpful if you can, it's available online, if you can get a copy of the economic sustainability plan. Because I believe what the government has done is look into the various areas in which they can support MSMEs and then provide funding to those areas. So there are definitely other areas of government support and intervention funds from the CBN and under the ESP that may speak to funding letters of credit and confirmed orders. But this particular funding, like I've shown in the guidelines, is support for export promotion activities, right? So I believe that answers that question. Will a newly registered company be required to produce a tax clearance? So in these areas, I think a newly registered company should still apply. The fact that you're able to present your TIN registration and the day you got registered for TIN, we show that you're still a new company. But however, the strength of your proposal, the strength of the draft that you present with regards to where support is required, could still make you eligible for funding. On the other hand, in my humble opinion, I would suggest that such small companies simply just attempt to aggregate. You may decide not to even come up as a cooperative. You could decide to come together as a joint venture or as a mutual guarantee association, which is like a group of 100 MSMEs who are all new, but they have a legal binding document that they have all signed to carry out an export activity. I believe such an endeavor would also go a long way. Where I cannot say who and who will not get the funding, like I said, the purpose of this webinar is to ensure that private sector operators are ready and we are not caught unawares. Once the form is out, let us surprise the government operatives with how ready we are with all the documentation that they have asked for to access this funding. So with these, I don't see any other hands up. In the chat room, there are no other questions. I would want to maybe just give another 60 seconds to see if any other person wants to make a comment. If not, we will send the actual guidelines and the presentation at this webinar to all those who registered online to participate, as well as our normal mailing list within NACCIMA. And with that, I want to thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We will continue to keep you updated with regards to this particular funding opportunity and any other area we believe the private sector operators will benefit. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so I see a late hand from Fahad Idris. So let's just maybe give him the opportunity to say a few things and then we can close out the webinar. Mr. Fahad, you have the floor. Hello, Mr. Fahad, could you unmute? We can't hear you.
Sir, you hearing me?
We can hear you now.
Sir, my question here is that I need this program on my Facebook. Please, I need more explanation about this program. This is my question.
Okay, you would require more explanation with regards to why we are here. Is that your question, sir? Okay, sir. So
we seems to looks like he's having problem with his connection.
Yeah, but I think I was still able to get his question, and okay. I'll quickly answer that, and then we close out the program, sir. Okay. So for those who may have just stumbled into the webinar without really fully realizing the objective, the idea behind the webinar is that there are some intervention funds that the government has put in place in its economic sustainability plan. The government intends to disburse the tune of 2.3 trillion naira. Out of that amount, 50 billion naira has been earmarked to support the activities of exporters. We are here in this webinar today to share with you the guidelines, the process, the ways in which you will be able to access this fund. So the presentation I have made is about all the things you need to have to make sure you have ready, because the application form for the funds will be open soon. When it is open, you would apply, but there are some documents you should have, and that's the reason we are sharing this information in this webinar today. So thank you, Mr. Fahad. I hope this answers your question. So without any other questions, I would want to give the floor over to the DG of NACCIMA, Ambassador Ayola Olukoni, to just give the closing remarks, and we close out the webinar. Thank you, sir. You have the floor, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Is it possible to put on my video so that I can just... Okay.
Yes, sir, you can from your device, as in just because you're a panelist, you switch it on from your device, the normal way.
It said you cannot start your video because the host has disabled it. Can you?
Okay, let me try something else. Try again now, sir. Sorry, sir. Sorry about that.
Okay then. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Once again, I'd like to say thank you to all of you who have joined us on this webinar. And I think I can put it better, more than the way Mr. Laron has put it, essentially, in his few remarks as you are ending. The essence of it is to sensitize our members and let our members know about this opportunity, and we should not miss the opportunity. Please be on the lookout, generally, in the newspapers, in the media, television, and all of this. But also, most importantly, we want to assure you from the Secretariat, we will also continue to also let you know once it comes out. We do have close link with the ministry. We also have close and very good working relationship with the Export Promotional Council. That is, of course, the arrowhead of this particular initiative. So we promise you we'll do that. Please also be on your own, be on the alert too as well. But most importantly, we want to tell you to please start getting ready for all with regards to all the requirements which Mr. Laron has identified in terms of registration of your company, if you don't have proper registration, the question of your team, a lot of those things. Because many times people will just say, oh, they're just announcing these things. They didn't let us know. And then you ask them, do you have a registered company? They can't give you a substantive answer. A proper business, do you have? So anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Please, on your set, start getting your papers and all of that things ready. We'll continue this conversation. We'll continue to also let you have information as they come out so that we can reposition our respective members to be able to take advantage of this opportunity. Once again, thank you very much for out of your very, very busy schedule joining us. I say thank you. Well, thank you very much to the Secretariat also as well. Thank you very much, and please do have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And this brings us to the end of the webinar. But if you just pardon me, I know I said immediately after these comments, that was the end. But there was just one last question about how do you join NACCIMA? So first of all, try and find a city or state chamber close to you. There are a number of chambers in every state. Ogun State has 5 chambers of commerce. Lagos has about 3. So you can join any chamber that is nearest to you, or you can go to the NACCIMA website, naccima.com. Under About Us, you will find out details of how to join. If you're a member of any other chamber as a member of NACCIMA, you are already a member of NACCIMA, or a member of the export group or any of our other trade groups. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Do have a wonderful rest of your day.
Only 2 awards are mentioned in the AMA bylaws. One is the Distinguished Service